Hello and welcome to the Tech in the Hood podcast. I'm your host, Ahmed Flex Omar. Tech in the Hood is a storytelling podcast that explores the past, present, and future of Chicago's cultural identity through conversations about community and technology. Each week, I reconnect with the friends and mentors who have shared this journey and spotlight new voices and innovators building the future of the Tech in the Hood. Welcome back to Tech in the Hood, the show that brings you all things art, business, culture, and of course, technology. With me today in the studio is my dear friend, Candice Smith. Candice, how are you?
I'm feeling good, feeling great, Flex. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So when I start an episode, I like to do a little bit of, introduction and how, I know the guest. And we met because of a dear friend, Michael Foster.
That's right.
And Michael's been, talking for a long time about, connecting us. And so glad, that it happened.
Yeah.
And you're here, on the show. And so, I want you to tell us just a little bit about yourself, to start. You're a Chicago native.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. From Inglewood, born and raised. I lived in Inglewood up and through maybe my sophomore year of high school. I went to Whitney Young. I'm a Dolphin.
Oh, wow.
And then we moved west so I can have a shorter commute,
Okay.
Making it easier for me to go to high school. But, you kind of skipped over the circumstances of our meeting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
I wanted you to tell it. I mean, it was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. Mike, as you mentioned, is a dear friend of ours. And he and I got connected through the Eisenhower Fellowship Network, which I'm a member of.
That's right.
After having gone through the program and traveling to Singapore and Kenya to study the intersection between youth and resilience and technology. And he's just been an amazing supporter of the program and just like you, collects people, good people. And so he had been talking about you and apparently he about me. And I met Mike for dinner one night and I was so late. And he's so gracious. And it was just one of those days. And we're sitting down having dinner and he brings you up again. And I was like, Mike, I would love to meet him. How can we make this happen? He whips out his phone, calls you, and you're like, I'm grocery shopping.
I was at Whole Foods.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, I'll be there shortly. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep. Showed up to the restaurant with all my groceries.
And I was like, okay, this is a real friendship. And I mean, the rest was history. It just felt like three friends reuniting after some time, and it's been a joy ever since. So
absolutely. No, it is such a great, story to share, but that's who Michael, is. And, Michael is a socialite, ultimate, connector. And, he won't admit it, but he's definitely been a mentor, for me because it's all about, people and how you treat people and how you, cherish the people in your lives. And, Michael is, he needs an honorary doctorate in that area.
I completely agree. And it's evident, by the way, you just showed up. Groceries in hand, no judgment. It was just like, I'm there.
Yep. In a heartbeat. Because anytime he connected me with someone, I was like, psh.
Yeah.
I'm like, but, it was really nice, chatting with you and also hearing, about, your story and kind of like your path to, engineering. And as Tech in the Hood, we got the tech, we got the, technology. But we'd like to touch upon, the human, journey, the personal narrative and how, you've come to that. And I know you, served, in the military. So you can tell us a little bit about, that background.
Yeah, I like how you didn't directly say tech and from the hood, right? Because it has a different connotation depending on who's saying it. But it's something I say proudly. Chicago is just a melting pot of wonderful hoods, if you will. And so for me to be able to represent my origins from Inglewood, South Side, I'm always proud to do that. I am not shrinking back from that. But so I do have, I'm a veteran not a protected veteran, but I'm a veteran. I served in the Illinois Army National Guard.
Thank you.
Because I wanted to go to college and needed a way to pay for it. But what I learned from that experience, I never anticipated. I really started my journey planning to go to the Air Force because I didn't have a pathway to college. First gen college student. For everybody listening, I'm really only 18 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
But first generation college student, I didn't have that pathway, but I wanted to leave Chicago. I wanted to leave the environment that I knew. And I was like, I'm going to the Air Force, heard so many wonderful things. I took the test, ASVAB, to enter into the military and scored very well. And at the time, the jobs that were available were probably, like a cook, which is nothing wrong with that. But the recruiter at the time said, I think we can do better. How about you look at the Army National Guard? And the rest is history. I became an MP, served as a weekend warrior and did that throughout my college career and early in my career.
Military police.
If you can believe it. Yeah. Don't let the smile fool you.
Did they have you do investigations, or were you
I was a cop.
Things? You were a cop.
I was a cop relieving other officers on base. Well, officers has a different, word when you think about the military, but relieving other cops, duty cops on military installations. And I did most of my service in El Paso, Texas. And so there was a different dynamic there. But no, traffic stops, domestic violence, whatever popped up while I was there for that 2 weeks, we addressed it as, officers sworn to protect and serve.
And you did that for how many years?
I did that for 4 years. In my last 2 years, I was unqualified in a communications unit because I transferred to a unit in Carbondale, which is where I went to school.
Right.
And that was right around 9/11. And so I was in between military policemen, no longer assigned to the unit, but I hadn't yet got qualified as a comms specialist. So when my unit in Carbondale got deployed for 9/11, I didn't go with them. When my unit in Springfield got deployed, I was really no longer part of that unit. So they couldn't attach me as a MP, a trained MP. And so I did my service at a local small airport in southern Illinois, where the most action I saw was, a farmer coming through the airport and passing through security and might have had a little flatulence. That was the most. But I'm in full BDU, battle dress uniform, my camo. I got an M16 rifle. We were activated.
Right.
And in many respects, I count myself fortunate, having not had to actually go into theater. And I count myself lucky to be amongst the caliber of people who did.
And what did that experience mean to you, joining the Army?
Looking back, I'll say it really showed me what I was made of. And, again, not to try to over milk this, because
Right.
I was in the National Guard. I was not full time. But that made demands on my life and the vision for my life that I didn't anticipate. When I thought the hardest part that I would do was going to basic training, because that requires some serious mental, emotional, physical toughness that I did not realize I had until it had to show up that way. I'm from Inglewood. Sure, everybody can make the assumption about what it means to be resilient because you face into all this adversity. But in that environment, that really tested everything that I had learned throughout my childhood, because now I'm an independent adult having to go through this. And I'm in basic training with a lot of different type of people, right? And with a lot of different type of goals. And so I faced into a lot of adversity. And now it was there that I think I learned and got my really first taste about leadership, right? I was named squad leader, which was highly unlikely because I was I was still in Charlie Company doing the PT physical training runs. It was like the third company, the slowest runners, but I never quit. Never quit. Doing push-ups, they were so hard. I never quit. Sit-ups, never quit. I was actually good at sit-ups. That was when I was 16 with the young abs, just 2 years ago. But running was really, really hard for me. But I think my drill sergeants and the company leadership saw something else in me. They saw compassion You know, for the other people who are in basic training who really struggled.
So they identified your leadership qualities early on,
which I hadn't yet. You know, but looking back on that, that's where I learned, I think, you know, foundation of what it meant to be a leader.
That's incredible. And then the engineering, you know, bit. Did you study engineering in college?
I did. You know, and that was just born out of me. A mentor, I can call her. She was really a teacher in high school who took an interest in this, you know, on the middle of the line, average student who had potential but wasn't really focused on meeting that potential. She asked me about what I wanted to do with my life and what classes I liked. And I love to read literature. Oh my gosh, I couldn't get enough. And I liked the one emailing class. She's like, oh, you want to be an engineer? And I'm like, oh, what's an engineer? You know, and so she helped me understand the path through and to and through college for engineering. And I did. I went to study electrical engineering with a specialization in computer engineering without a very strong foundation in math. I had to go to a summer bridge program to fill that gap.
Engineering, like physics.
Oh, no, beyond physics. I mean, everything, digital systems, you know, forces, absolutely physics, chemistry.
Yeah.
The most math that you will ever see mathing in your life. I had to take all of it, you know. And and I wanted it so bad. Once I realized what it meant to be an engineer and be a problem solver, I was like, yeah, and you make money? What? I was like, yes, sign me up.
Sign me up. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, you know. So, I mean, that is really an incredible story because it really shows the power of mentorship.
It does.
And someone seeing something in you, but then also, you know, opportunities, right? The world is filled with opportunities. And if you are not aware of these opportunities and if you don't have, you know, a mentor, you know, show you like, hey, this is a path that you can take based on, you know, skills that, you know, I'm currently seeing, you know, in you, it's hard. And it's even hard today with the internet. We have an abundance of, you know, information, opportunities, because you can search for anything on the internet, but
find it,
right? But the problem has been even though search engines are there, but there's an art to like finding, you know, things and search. And, you know, just like before, you know, I'm gonna age myself, going to the library to find information, you know, and now the library is, you know, the search engine on Google. When I speak to students that I mentor at Loyola University and, you know, Arupe College of Loyola, and they're interested in going into, you know, jobs and, you know, accounting and finance. And I'm like, have you thought about fintech? And I'm like, what is fintech?
What is it?
I'm like, you have the Cash App right on your phone.
Right. That's right.
You know about PayPal.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, have you thought about applying there? No. How do I do that? You know?
Yeah.
And and to me, you know, because I've had these experiences, I have to go back and remember how hard it was, you know, for me, you know, in the beginning, you know, because there was a point in my life when I was a college student and I sent, you know, hundreds of emails and like monster.com and all those, career, you know, website, and nobody got back to me.
Yeah.
And every job that I got, you know, once after I realized that, you know, it's all about relationships, it made my life, you know, a lot, you know, easier. And when I'm, you know, taking care of these kids and mentoring them, I tell them that they got to go and knock on people's doors, and then they freak out and they're like, "What do you mean I'm gonna go see someone, you know, in person?
In person?
No, you know, why can't I email them? Why can't I message them, you know, online?" I'm like, no, that's how people are gonna remember you, if you go knock on the door and if you hand deliver your resume. You know, so that's really incredible that, you know, someone saw that in you, and the fact that you actually enjoyed it, you know, because engineering is not easy.
It's not,
especially electrical engineering.
It was not, and it is not. And I mean, full disclosure, I failed Calc 2. And it was not because I was partying or kicking it or because I wasn't trying. I tried my hardest and I just did not understand it. And Calc 2 was the weed out course. It was the course that said who was going to make it and who wasn't. Make it, right? And I was like, absolutely not. I'm going to make it. I'm just going to try again. And that is one thing I've done throughout my entire career. I try and try and try again, and I get help. When I failed that class, and I don't mean I got a D, I mean I failed it, full on F. And it was devastating, but I knew that wasn't the end of the world. I switched professors. I became besties with that professor, whether he liked it or not. And I got the help I needed. And I ended up getting a B the second time around. If I would have quit, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. Period.
Yeah. Calculus is painful.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'm just even thinking about it. I failed my calculus class, too. But just like you, I don't quit. And when I declared my major, and they were like, "Oh, you're a business, student. You don't have to take you can take business calc."
Right?
What's a business calc? So now you put a dollar sign. And I'm like, it makes absolute sense.
That's
I got an A.
That's right.
Because, and I had an African teacher.
Okay.
Who broke it down to me from a cultural standpoint, too. So that makes a big difference, because the other class, we were a class of like over 100, kids. I mean, and Loyola classes usually tend to be like smaller, like 20 and 30 students. But this one, it was like in a grand room, and I felt like it was in a theater.
It was a math class?
It was a math class.
Wow.
So I'm like, I can connect with, this teacher, and this stuff is, so hard. And it was my first class when I transferred, to Loyola. I was still trying to figure out the campus, figuring out, a lot of things, but it's important to have perseverance and, push through things, especially, subjects that, are tough, because nothing, the things that are good, they don't come, easy.
That's right. And I think it all starts with the belief that you can. Maybe this step was really hard and you didn't do as well, but that belief that you can see it through, that makes a big difference in, being resilient and pressing on.
Absolutely. And I like what you said earlier about, connecting with your professor.
Absolutely.
Definitely comes in, helpful, and especially early in the semester, not towards the end.
Absolutely.
But once you said, okay, this is my major, I'm doing engineering, did you, go back to school for your master's program, or, did you start work right after your bachelor's, or what was your path?
I actually started work technically while I was still in college. I took my second semester of sophomore year off. I mean, I just barely made the minimum GPA after failing Calc 2. I took that semester off because I got into a Boeing scholarship program where you were working full time on site at the company within your major. So for me, it was electrical engineering, and I was doing a lot of coding and modeling of defense planes for this simulation for the F/A-18. And so I drank the Kool-Aid very early on in that respect, because once I got that experience, I knew I was going to be an engineer. It was just a matter of getting this piece of paper. And I was like, that's going to happen, because that job was not it was not easy. Those men in that basement expected me to build those models, to code those models. And they taught me every step along the way because I was a student, but it wasn't like, oh, just go over there and read those drawings or read these specs. I was part of the team, and having had that experience made me want to be a part of a team as a professional. So when I started my career, I just had an incredible experience, but I knew I wanted to go back to school after realizing I had some gaps in my understanding of what they were talking about when they started talking about the systems engineering process and product lifecycle management and things like that. You know, I was a good engineer. I could integrate hardware and software. I could code. I could build a whole test bench. But when it got to really the management of the product and understanding how you manage innovation, I lacked those skills. And I just was really fortunate that Boeing had partnered with what was then the University of Missouri-Rolla. It's now the University of Missouri Science and Tech to inaugurate a master's in systems engineering program that you could do distance learning. And this was not independent learning. I had to attend class as it was happening, but I did so from, you know, my dining room or my kitchen, or I would go to the campus of UMSL, which is a local school there. So that was really my first experience into kind of that virtual teaming, you know, and virtual learning. And I was all the more better for it because everything I was learning in that program, the phase of what we were moving through at work aligned. So if we were going through preliminary design, I was literally learning about preliminary design.
Incredible.
And my team was, let's do a preliminary design for the Mars rover. And we were doing preliminary design for this technology we were integrating into the aft seat of the FA-18. I mean, just every step of the way. So when I showed up into those design reviews, not only did I understand what they were talking about, but I had a little bit of that foundational knowledge to be confident enough to join the conversation. And, you know, I think that really set me apart, not necessarily from my peers, because I was the only everything on that team, right? But that really showed my leadership that I was interested, that I was curious, and that I could speak up about my ideas, and I had the technology, you know, acumen to back it up. And that they just were an amazing team. I can't say enough good things about those men that I worked with.
That's incredible. So were you the only woman in the room?
Only woman. Only person under 20, no, I wasn't under 20, under 30 at the time. Only person under 40, we'll say. Only Black person, you know, the only everything, but they never made me feel onlied, right? And when I was made to feel onlied, because that happened, they swooped in like the uncles and the cousins and, you know, the pseudo dads that they thought they were to me.
That was your pack.
Absolutely. Hands down, you know, like the full nerd squad, you know, and they just were not having it. And to be surrounded by that kind of support just instilled incredible confidence in me as an engineer.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And you said it was a Boeing scholarship.
Yeah.
You know, program. So how did you hear about the scholarship program?
The company came recruiting at SIU in Carbondale.
Wow.
Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. I mean, it was right in the backyard of St. Louis, and the company came and looked for talent in the overlooked spaces. Sure, they can go to MIT. Sure, they can go, you know, to Purdue. Sure, they can go to all these, you know, top branded companies, schools, but they came to SIU in Carbondale and looked for talent, and they found it. And I continue to look for talent there as a result of that. I came from the margins. I continue to look for the gems in there.
That's incredible. And so, you know, and you're still working for, you know, Boeing.
I do.
For a long time. So that's an incredible story. So as you progressed in your career with Boeing, did you find other mentors that are women, that are, you know, people of color?
I did. You know, surprisingly, I did not. So at SIU Carbondale, we had this organization called the National Society of Black Engineers. And, you know, I'm from the city. You know, for all intents and definitions, I'm from the hood. And so I'm meeting all these people who are just like about their business, and their business is engineering, and their business is mentoring, their business is helping students find jobs or internships. And they were mostly all Black students, you know, of the diaspora, because we had people that were from outside the U.S., part of the College of Engineering. I had never seen anything like it. And it just inspired me so much and just gave me this community of people who I knew I could count on. It wasn't until my second co-op, so summer of 2001, that I met a Black female engineer. Her name is Tanya Noble. She's also my soror of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Amazing.
But that dynamic was different, right? This was my second co-op. And I had a wonderful experience in my first one, which was 6 months. And so my second one was over the summer. And I have this Black woman who had gone through everything that I'm about to experience on my journey to becoming an engineer. And that kind of mentorship, I get goosebumps just thinking about how much she poured into me, because she could not only direct me as my manager and as my leader, but she could also talk to me in ways and put me up on things that, maybe a man or maybe a non-African American man or that nobody else could. Right. And it's how I showed up, my dress, right. How I was dressing. If I had concerns about hair, which was a thing, if I had concerns about navigating relationships, I could talk to her and ask her questions in a way that I knew I would get an honest answer because she experienced it too. And then she didn't have to wait for me to ask. She could offer it too. Right. And there's plenty of times she got me right together. Like, hey, don't show up. You weren't ready for this meeting. This is how you need to show up. Hey, your model wasn't first time quality. Here's what you should have done better. Do better. And she held me accountable. It wasn't let me just tell you and then you figure it out. She held me accountable, and I'll always cherish that friendship. And we still do have a friendship. She's been a mentor throughout my entire career.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That's incredible. So what advice do you have for, young people right now, just for thinking about, STEM, careers?
Ooh, advice. I got a ton of it, but what would I say in this moment? I would
More
say
like confidence, because, when you think about, working as becoming an engineer and so on, it takes a lot of confidence, right? There's you feel like there's this mountain that you need to, climb, and it's helpful that there's definitely more people that look like us that are in this, field, now. So there's definitely more mentors to reach out to. But how do you get, a young person interested, in STEM, and even like having, building up the confidence to even like go and go towards that path?
That's a really good question, because there's so many obstacles that young people face that could prevent them from even realizing the opportunity in front of them. But one thing I would definitely say to them is forget the stale narratives. Forget the stale narratives about what it means to be an engineer, about what it means to be a STEM professional, and go out and find what it means to you. There are so many opportunities that yet haven't even been created. I mean, we'll get into talking about AI. I'm almost certain of it. But there are so many science, technology, engineering, and math across various industries that's not limited to, I'm not going to call aerospace stale, because it's not. It's how we travel the world. It's how we connect with each other. It's how we explore new, horizons. But at the same time, don't discount the value of STEM in music, in sports, in entertainment, in the community, in AI, in AR, machine, none of that, and things that haven't yet been created. I want them to expand. If I am not expanding the narrative for them, I want them to know that they can go out and expand it for themselves, because STEM unlocks so much in this world. And I do believe that is how the world will change. And we see that as AI becomes more prominent. And then I just think in terms of confidence, and I'm going to say me, I'm not going to loop anybody else listening or watching or anything into this. And I'll say, I used to be so quick to say, just be confident. But confidence is built up. It's not something that, even the most privileged of us can suffer from low confidence. But confidence is built up, to me, through resilience, through doing hard things, learning from failures. And I think now I'll loop everybody in, we have the responsibility to instill that confidence in young people too, by being part of their community, telling them that you can do. And oh, by the way, here's some resources, or here, let me put you up on game. Let me tell you what I did. Let me connect you to this person so that you can go prepared and confidently go after your dreams. We're responsible for that. we should make kids responsible for building their own confidence. That's irresponsible as far as I'm concerned. And so that's what I do with all my mentees. You know, you're not going to find me telling them you can't and you should not. You will find me saying, let me help you figure this out. You know, and when something goes wrong, you will find me say, let's talk about what went wrong so you don't make the same mistakes or so that you learn from it. And I think for me, and don't get it twisted, what you see with me is what you get. And I am very confident, but I've earned that confidence through a lot of failure, a lot of try again, a lot of humbleness and asking for help. And now I know I could do anything. And any kid or person listening to this, you certainly can too.
No, absolutely. That's a great answer. I posted a while back on Facebook that I celebrate all my failures, and a lot of people laughed. You know, who celebrates failures? But those have been my best lessons.
Yeah.
And so when you go through life, thinking about it like a journey. Maybe it's my East African, heritage, like all the marathon runners in the family.
Oh, buddy.
Well, life's a marathon.
Keep running.
Keep running, exactly. Like it's not a sprint, yeah. But since we touched a little bit upon AI, how do you feel about the recent developments in AI? Because AI is not new, and people are treating it like it's this new phenomenon. But I want to hear your thoughts.
And I like that you say AI is not new, because we know what that means, right? We are in the technology, but for so many people, it is in fact very new, and they don't realize how much it's been a part of their lives for decades, right? And now it's at their fingertips, which I think is an incredibly powerful thing. I am not threatened by it, and not because I've been around it throughout my career, but I see the potential for it to unlock so much, At the very lowest level, I have used ChatGPT to help me write, not to be right, not to validate my thinking or anything like that, but to help me get started. If I'm stuck on something, if I want to just quickly have a thought partner to help me work through something, it's right at my fingertips. Now, do I have people on my team and peers for that? Absolutely. But in this very digital and virtual world, they're not always available. Remote world. But I got a friend in ChatGPT, right? And other technologies,
it's your virtual assistant.
It's my virtual accountability partner in many respects.
There you go.
But I also think that it's going to create jobs and worlds that we can't yet imagine. For my 13-year-old daughter who walked into this studio with 3 devices needing to be connected to the internet, that kind of network centric, of all her devices connected, the power of what she'll be able to explore and discover and how that'll influence her, it's unexplored territory, and I can't wait to see what she does with it. And I know there's different schools of thoughts around this, but don't be so fearful about it replacing a job. Look for it as an opportunity to create more opportunities for you to have a more lucrative or satisfying career or job or whatever the case may be. But I also think we have to be incredibly responsible with how we teach it, how we maintain it, and how we use it, because it's still a system that's meant for human success, but it's still a system that's built by humans with all the bias, with all the ill intent, with all the good intent, with all the efforts to be inclusive. That system will only be as good as it's trained to be. And we have a responsibility, an ethical responsibility. We talked about ethics in AI a lot, right? There is a responsibility to make sure that system does not carry out the same systemic exclusions that things and technologies have in the past.
No, absolutely. I think there's going to be further, discussions about ethics around AI. And I do agree with you. For most people, AI, because of ChatGPT and the rate of adoption of ChatGPT is new for most, people. And, with that comes, fear, because it's a new thing. I mean, we had this thing with cloud, commuting.
Don't put your stuff in the cloud. Somebody's going to steal it.
What are you talking about, the cloud? What do you mean?
Up there? The fluffy place? No, that's it. Thank you, Mom.
But now people don't blink twice when they
everything is in the cloud.
iCloud storage,
Absolutely.
I mean, no one's walking around. I remember there was a time when people were walking around with those zip drives.
You know how many of those I lost? And I'm like, oh shoot, my data's on there.
Cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So it's we've come a long way, but. I'm interested to see like how AI intersects in your life as an engineer, but also as a parent.
Yeah, as an engineer, it's everywhere, right? When you think about AI, and if we talk about virtual reality environments, from modeling airplane systems, modeling production systems, maintenance, training. Oh my goodness. It has just been an incredible tool that I see our engineers using across the enterprise, right? It doesn't matter if you're in the commercial, defense, or services. It's being used, and it's a valuable tool that helps us to become a lot more collaborative, but also accelerate the pace of innovation in aerospace. And that's an incredible benefit, not just to our customers, but also to the consumer, of which all of us are. We'll have to get on an airplane, if we want to connect with somebody around the world, and it takes, 30 days to get there by train, right? So it is very prominent in that space. But as a parent, it has been a useful tool, because I have to make sure that I'm thinking about how my child, Desiree, learns, how she understands and gets exposure to the world, how she explores her curiosities. And I mean, one just really quick story, I was running out to a concert the other night, and I knew I was supposed to make her a worksheet so that she can practice for her 7th grade math test on combining like terms with integers and variables on both sides. And I was like, oh shoot, and I can't just make it up. I can't just go X, Y plus, this on this side. I can't just do that. And I'm running late. I literally, in under 30 seconds, typed in a prompt, give me 10 questions to help a 7th grade student study for combining like terms, integers on both sides, and make it increasingly difficult. I got that in less than 10 seconds, took a picture of it, texted to her, and said, please complete this. I'll check it when I get home tonight. Now, that's a simple example, but that enabled me as a parent to give my child what she needed to hold her accountable to that. And then I left feeling less guilty about what I didn't get to, because I'm out, going out to have a good time at a concert, right? And so, I think that's a simple example, but even still, the way I might tutor her might cause a little bit of clashing and conflict between us. But if I can use AI to help me help her and explain principles that she's trying to learn in a language in a way that she understands, oh my gosh, how much peace is there in my home, and how much more is my baby learning? And that's what's important to me.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So you're pro, AI.
I am pro AI, responsibly.
Responsibly, yeah. Right. Proceed with caution.
Proceed with curiosity.
With curiosity. Awesome.
Yes.
So you also mentioned what now Apple calls spatial computing, what Meta calls the metaverse, and VR, AR, mixed reality, and kind of like the future of, collaboration, in engineering, and also in other, in industries. So have you seen these engineers actually wearing these headsets and collaborating with, different engineers?
Absolutely, yes. If you think about helping a tech train on the installation of landing gear, absolutely, right? And you have other techs in that same environment with them, and they're literally going through the motions and seeing parts highlight and seeing screws tighten and measuring the threshold and the tension in that screw and predicting if that screw, absolutely.
It's incredible.
Incredible. but am I seeing it elsewhere? You know, can I tell Des wants to go? That's my daughter, Desiree. She wants to go to Paris. Well, how about we visit Paris, you know, in the metaverse first?
Yeah.
You know, I want to go to Korea. I want to have a K-pop experience and go to a concert. Well, those tickets cost $1,000. How about we just go on over to the metaverse, you know, and have a K-pop and experience a K-pop concert? And I think it's those kind of things that make it relevant to the everyday person that will help us understand the power of it. You know, it's not just about the quality of our lives. It's not just about, you know, making sure our engineers and scientists and everybody in whatever industry you're in are able to do their jobs. It's not only, it's about the collective experience that we are now, we can have at our fingertips, what we can accomplish in a much quicker time with much greater satisfaction. I mean, I'd rather, you know, pay $20 to go to a Michael Jackson concert, you know, online and then with this VR set on my head than trying to pay $1,000 to go to some group that I've never really heard of and did not enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I'm not seeking to minimize it or, you know, make the technology so rudimentary, but it has to make sense for the everyday person.
No, absolutely. And I think because the Oculus, you know, for Meta, because it came out during the pandemic, we're all stuck at home. Like, yeah, let's just give it a try.
Yeah, and because we weren't spending all the money we could spend on the Oculus. And, you know, I actually bought it for Desiree for Christmas. But then as a parent, here comes this article because I was researching the Oculus. And, you know, now all the cookies following me around are like, oh, buy it for this price. And, oh, here's some articles about the Oculus that you should know within this demographic. We know you have a kid. Let us tell you about the dangers of the Oculus. And I click on the article and it's talking about, you know, how it impedes the development, optical development in kids of a certain age. So we didn't get into it as much as I expected we could have, but I immediately jumped into it. I was like, oh, we got some coins. Let's go ahead and, you know, let's be an early adopter. But then I had to be responsible with the use of it and the impact that it might have on her.
Yeah.
But me and my brother, you know, we played with it for a little while, you know, until I had to get back to parenting.
That makes sense. And, you know, so, you know, you mentioned your daughter a lot, and
don't I?
which is awesome. You know, so being a mother, you know, how has that affected your perspective on, you know, leadership?
Tremendously. I would definitely say she's my boss. You know, whatever thing she and what she needs sets the course for my life, but not in the sense of it's a burden or it's a inconvenience. Being a mom and with the commitment that I have to being a mom and with the grace I do give myself, I would say she is my greatest teacher. And as a leader, we should always be learning. We should be learning. I lead teams at work. I learn so much from them. I should be imparting that knowledge so that they are empowered to do their work. They're prepared to do their work. And they have the confidence that if they get in a situation, they have the top cover to that's going to help remove roadblocks or remove constraints that's preventing them from doing their work. Same thing with parenting. I am learning from what it means to be a parent. The questions she asked me, I'm like, I don't know, but let me go figure it out. Or sometimes it's like, baby, we got to figure this out together.
Yeah.
Right. But then she gets the benefit of that knowledge after it's been filtered and enriched by me. She gets the benefit of knowing that I have her back no matter what. And whatever she wants to go after, she has that top cover from me and all the community around me. She also has the benefit of my time, you know, and that's top priority. So I think anybody can have leadership traits, but not everybody will be considered a leader. You know, being a leader means that I'm compassionate. It means that I'm decisive. It means that I have a vision for where we're trying to go, and I'm giving you every reason and every opportunity to help us get there. And same thing with, you know, motherhood. And being a leader also means that I can't do it alone. So she has a squad of aunties and uncles that are not blood related to help me be a good mom and to help her grow into the responsible person this world needs her to be and whatever talent she'll bring into it. And I think the last thing I'll say is being a mom has definitely impacted the depth of my patience, right? Because I can't snap off on my team at work, but with her, I can be like, look, go sit down. We talked through it. Here's my decision. Move it along, or this is what I expect out of you. So she has helped sharpen my patience a bit, because if I'm giving grace to my team at work, I should be giving the same grace to my child at home.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, I'm not a parent, yet, but I raised my 3, sisters. So definitely learned a lot, through that experience.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I was 19 years old. I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing, So
yep.
The youngest one got the most benefits because
the experience from the other two.
Trial and error. And the joke that I always make, to them, it's like, it was as if I was running an incubator and it were like 3 startups.
You would connect it to that, wouldn't you?
And the third one hit and they just start, laughing. But, I'm very proud of, all of them, that all 3 are, doing well and excelling, in their fields. But you do learn a lot, from those, experiences. And so, yeah, I'm completely agree with everything, that you said.
Yeah, thank you. And my daughter will tell you she's probably tired of me being a systems thinker, because she's like, I'm like, well, if you do this, then this will happen and this will happen. Then ultimately, and she's just like, oh my gosh, no, everything is not going to go in that order. And I'm like, yeah, but what you do now matters. And blah. She's like, so, but I'm a systems thinker. That's how my mind operates. But I also have to remember that she's not she's a variable in the system. She's not a constant. Right. And I can't treat her like, okay, like an if-then statement in every way. So, I
controlled experiment.
Definitely. Right. Definitely. So, I do have to give myself, and I think every parent should give themselves a lot of grace in their journey to be a good parent, or to be the parent that their child or children needs.
Oh, absolutely. So has she shown any interest in what she wants to do?
Yeah, a ton of it. I was just telling her, I got to clean out the garage from all the things that you've been interested in over the years, because I'm sure there are some children that would love to have this skateboard, this hoverboard, we have a go-kart kit that did not get cracked open. I was so certain we were going to build this go-kart, but she's shown a lot of aptitude in science and math, and I can't take any credit for it. But she also has this incredible spirit of entertainment and just bringing joy into a situation. So I remember at some point she wanted to be a dance engineer or something. I can't remember. It was some like quirky combination that does not exist. And I was like, you doggone right. Yeah, that sounds good. I can support that. But now she's really into K-pop. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's a lot of technology in that industry, right? How do you make that connection? But she's an incredible ball player, basketball. She shows incredible natural talent at track. So she's also interested in sports. And if you ask her what she wants to do, which is not a question I ask her, because you're only 13, how in the world do you know just yet? But she'll tell you, I want to go into the sciences. And I think it's just that curiosity that she has, that she sees an opportunity in that space. But she also wants to be a K-pop star, so she independently is learning Korean on Duolingo.
That's so cool.
Right? But it's at her fingertips.
Yeah.
Right? And it's gamified in a way that she's actually learning it. And I'm like, girl, don't talk that to me. I don't know what you're talking about, because I'm not in that space.
Oh, no, absolutely. And we were talking about, VR. Earlier, I went to Spain last year, and before I went, I I've learned Spanish by working at, restaurants, but I wanted to clean it up a little bit because you learn a lot of bad words and a lot of the street, language. But I'm going to meet the U.S. ambassador in Spain, so. Yeah.
You like how he just threw that in there, the U.S. ambassador in Spain.
No big deal. No big deal. I mean, wonderful host, Ambassador Yulisa Reynoso.
You better say her name.
Yeah. She has my painting, so we're besties. No, she's incredibly, lovely, and she hosted us in Madrid, but I was like, I gotta, fine tune, and prepare, so on the Oculus, I can't remember right now what the software was called, put it in the description or in the links, but I was able to, in VR, enter a coffee shop, in Spain and, order coffee, like have regular, conversations as if I was already, there. And that's different from, just doing, the Rosetta Stone or, Duolingo. And there's nothing bad with that, but that was another level. Absolutely.
And that sensory experience only helps you retain the information more, right? Contextualizes it for you. So when you actually get into that environment, all your senses are like, yes, we know this. Okay, let's do that recall thing of this knowledge we have stored in the back of our minds.
And it's muscle memory, right? Absolutely. So the social interaction is natural.
Right.
Even though you don't have the thing.
Right.
Still, it just felt good, and and it also increases your confidence.
Yes.
I felt confident just taking cabs instead of ordering an Uber.
Yeah.
With also that experience is different because you're talking to, someone who's been driving a cab for years, and the stories that you get and the
love me a good cab driver.
And the connections that you make from those stories, and then they will refer you to go see this place and this place because they know the city inside and out.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Can break for a minute and get some more water.
Thank you.
Yeah. See, that was me earlier when I came into the studio. And back to back, Zoom calls, remote work, so like I'm like, man, I need some water. My throat is
getting dry.
getting dry, but I'm really, passionate about, VR. So one of our clients at my company, Flex Tech AI, the Westside Health Authority, they're building an innovation, center called the Aspire Center on the west side of Chicago.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I told them is like, imagine, having kids, from the west side and south side of Chicago, being in the same classroom with kids, from, Africa.
Absolutely.
In VR.
Absolutely.
So, and that's something, once it opens next year, I plan on making it, happen because these connections need to happen, and, the African diaspora is so large, of a community, and especially with what I'm seeing with AI.
Yeah.
Africa's growth is going to accelerate we have young population. The average age is 24 years old.
Yep.
There's a lot of, talent, and now having, AI, we're going to catch up.
Absolutely.
Very quickly. And it's important for, an African diaspora to have that connection with, the continent, because the continent is rich.
Absolutely.
It's not what they show you on TV.
Yeah.
You got to go there and
experience it for yourself.
Absolutely.
Or hop on the Oculus and experience it for yourself.
Exactly. Because then you're like, okay, well, I have all these stereotypes and so on, because unfortunately, like when you Google Africa and you say kids in Africa and on Google and search engine, what pops up is, kids, that are homeless, because the algorithm is pulling from the NGOs that are doing work.
That's right.
Over there, right? Yeah. So that's why I'm big on, storytelling and us owning our own story and sharing our own, narratives. And, you talked about ethical AI.
Yeah.
Well, AI is also pulling from those data sets.
Absolutely.
So it affects us.
Absolutely.
And affects us, economically, from a mental health, standpoint, so it's a lot of work. And with AI, I see it as when we discovered electricity. It's the new, electricity. There's entire industries and businesses that are, going to come out. Spatial, computing with Apple, the Vision Pro, that just came out. How many app developers are now going to develop just for that device?
Just for that device. Yep. And how many worlds can be created in that space?
Absolutely. And I don't want our kids to be left behind.
That's right. And they won't. They won't. When I plug for the Eisenhower Fellowships, when I was funded and cultivated this wonderful experience in person-to-person connection to study my theory in Singapore and Kenya. And again, it was the intersection between innovation and resilience in youth. Singapore, this, by all accounts, incredibly advanced nation.
Yeah, it's Switzerland of Asia.
Oh my gosh, and I get there and it's like straight up something off of the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I expected it to be. Right. Because that's what I saw. And then I get on the ground and I see just this beautiful melting pot of communities that are innovators. And I really thought the children were going to be like underpinning all that. But come to find out it wasn't. Those children, they love the arts. They loved knowing different cultural dance and music around the world. The national agenda was around, youth and STEM, youth and fintech. They were getting that knowledge, brain drain from the country because they were leaving and taking that knowledge elsewhere. But I really thought the premise was I was going to see a lot of youth innovation in Singapore, but also a lot of those youth didn't have to have a lot of experience that would build up their resilience, right? Because of the very carefully cultivated and well-funded and resources, academic experiences that many of the youth would have, right? I get to Nairobi, where I thought it was going to be a little bit rudimentary. And I get there and it's innovation after innovation after innovation happening. The thing we enjoy with PayPal and Cash App, that was born out of necessity for rural Kenyan youth who needed a way to exchange because they couldn't bank. Right? So they press a button on their mobile phone, not mobile app, and through the communications company, they're exchanging, essentially monies, right? And that was born out of the rural youth needing a way to transact. It didn't matter if they were being innovative and putting one guy was like, we just put the sign on our wagon and, our bicycle, wagon attached to our bicycle, and we advertised, this thing, and then we got enough money to do a digital sign. And then we got enough, to expand their business. They didn't know anything about startup culture or founder. Yeah. This was born out of them being resilient and finding a way. And just the innovation coming out of East Africa, which is now called the Silicon Valley of Africa, the whole of Africa, if you can, believe that. Yeah. The way the youth are learning and the rate at which they are innovating and the talent, the quality of talent coming out is unmatched. It is unmatched, the quality. Now, when I visited India for work and saw the caliber and the quantity of people that were graduating in STEM fields, blew my mind relative to what's happening in the U.S. Actually, Des and I were just talking about it. She's doing this Model UN research on the country of India, and that led to a conversation around, STEM graduates and innovation in tech and how that's spreading across the world, because not everybody stays at home to take that knowledge and do that where they're from. And I'm fortunate to have come back here to such an innovative city that's been innovative. First skyscraper, first Ferris wheel, down to the zipper that keeps all of our pants and clothes buttoned up. Here in Chicago, there's a guy who does these tours. I think I'm ranting a little bit, but he says everything dope came from Chicago. And I think his name is Dilla. And he's like the Chicago urban historian. Oh my goodness, he is not wrong. He's not wrong.
You're just reading the description of my podcast.
Okay. Well, then look at me validating.
Love, as because in the beginning I said this is a love letter to Chicago.
Absolutely.
And how our city has been at the heart of some of the most historic milestones in the digital age.
Absolutely.
Right. And when I was doing my episode, 0, and I was introducing, the podcast, I talk about, how we're all comfortable now with our smartphones and cell phones. But the first, cell phone call was made out of, Chicago with Motorola.
See, I haven't gotten back to episode 0. I started at the latest and was working back and hadn't gotten there. But it's true. Chicago is an incredibly innovative city and a tech hub in this nation and growing around the world. And as a native Chicagoan who was just bent on escaping, I'm so happy to be back. I will be here. I'm here to stay because it's just, you can find whatever you need here in this city.
Right.
Relationship, food, experiences. This is an amazing city, and not just because of all the accolades and surveys. It's because we live here and we experience it every day, every single day. I love the city. So. Yeah,
me too. I mean, I haven't been here for a long time, so yeah. And I always wanted to come here. I always had a, connection, to Chicago from afar. Obviously, New Yorkers will argue that Gotham is New York, but I'm like, no, it's Chicago. So.
How often have people had this conversation?
Yeah,
How many relationships have ended because of this conversation?
It's a dark night. And so and obviously Michael Jordan and Oprah Winfrey,
sure,
who I recently met and got to know.
Here we go. Tell the story.
A little flex.
A little flex. A little flex on Flex's part.
Exactly. Yeah, I met her through a young man that I'm mentoring and helping him manage his career. He's a young artist, and he was commissioned by the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery, and he's the youngest African American artist to be, commissioned by the museum. So it's historic. And again, we're talking about Chicago and milestones.
Yeah.
It's another one.
All good things from Chicago.
We got another, good one. And so for me to be part of that experience of, honoring, the story and the image of Miss Winfrey and what she meant, not just to our community, but just to for the entire, world. I mean, she influenced people before there was such thing as influencers and the internet.
That's right.
So
that's right.
It was just incredible. And so, meeting her and just, seeing, how she treats people, how she, operates and, how she does, it's a masterclass, and so I always wanted to come to Chicago because of that, because of all these, great, people. I do have one last question before we wrap up. So, you've obviously been with Boeing, for a long time, and
my entire career.
Your entire career, engineering. What advice do you have? So, for younger, you, even though you're 18, so let's say, your 9-year-old, self, and thinking about, STEM and, engineering, like what advice do you have for that, young person?
For younger me, a lot, mostly that it's going to work out. For all the worrying, all the doubt, all the mistakes, all the things that just seem so insurmountable, you did good, and you will do good. And I think that's for most anybody listening, So, yeah, I'm probably, I joke about being 18, but I'm really proud to be at the big age that I am, over 40. And to look back over the journey of my life and feel good about the impact that I've made, not just for myself or for my family, but for the larger community. And so I would tell my younger self what I'm telling my current self. you're going to do good. You're going to do well, yes. And you can, and just keep at it. No matter, even if I change a career, at this point, if I got into something different, I would have no doubt that I have what it takes to be successful. Because that success is not just about me, it's about the impact I have on other people too.
Right.
So
stay the course and be confident and it'll all work out.
Find confidence and be kind. I would definitely say, don't let the smile fool you. Southside is still in here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I feel it.
Because I had to be very resilient. I had to have this grit, this kind of toughness.
It's part of your DNA.
It's literally part of my DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how you have to navigate the world.
Right.
And I've gotten as far as I have because of how well I've treated people. And not because I wanted something or need their help, but because they deserved it. So younger me, keep treating people well. It'll come back to you.
Awesome. Well, it was an amazing, it's been an amazing time with you. And thank you so much for coming in and, speaking, with us today. And, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of messages from, and I don't know if you're on social media, but
I'm not really, to be such a fan. I'm really not as much, I like this.
So if you get a ton of LinkedIn requests, I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. Anywhere I can help. But Thank you too for asking me to have this conversation. You're giving me a chance to create a moment of legacy that'll live on for Des and other youth or whomever would be listening in this amazingly beautiful studio. And thank you for letting me, bring my child, because we are a package deal,
Absolutely.
And what does it hurt? Who's going to tell me no? So
exactly. But we're all proud of you as well,
Thank you.
And all your accomplishments, and we're looking forward to having you, again on the show.
All right. I look forward to coming back anytime.
Awesome.
Thank you.